All right. Good morning, everybody. Yes, we are live, and I'm in Cape Town this morning. So, you're wondering why the background is slightly different? That is why. I'm down here for a little event that we did yesterday, and today I'm scheduled for a couple of meetings. So I thought, let me get a hold of this stuff. Many birds killed with guns. So that's kind of the plan. So, I hope your Thursday morning is off to a good start. We've got Phumi in the studio in Johannesburg. We'll come to her just now. And, of course, we've got the burning platform a little bit later on, which is going to be lots of fun. And we are rejoined this morning by an old favorite on the burning platform, none other than Phumlani Majozi, who is always good value. He's written a book which is called Lessons from Past Heroes. So we'll get to hear from him just now. Well, that's going to be lots of fun. The comment section is in full flight this morning already, bright and early, getting things done. We also have, as another addition to this morning's show, a little special of the window seat with travel.co.za, which we'll be telling you about a little later. So yeah, the view, I, by the way, have to compliment this place. So I haven't been to this part of Cape Town for a long, long time. I'm in Century City, which is sort of in a part of Cape Town which was kind of forlorn for a long time. There were shops here. They famously used to be the Ratanga Junction. I remember we did one big New Year's party here about, 14 years or something ago. And what they've done since then is obviously the urban planners have been working hard in the background, making things happen, because this place has just suddenly become a hub. There's suddenly lots of traffic. There's accommodation. There's commercial enterprises going on. There's even an industrial area just a little bit further up. And it seems like Cape Town has really got its act together when it comes to this kind of urban planning, because this is the future of cities. You disintermediate and you create a whole lot of nodes around the main one. And it's pretty beautiful. I mean, I have to say they've put in great roads, public infrastructure in terms of water, sanitation, electricity, all of that stuff. They've got a petrol refinery up in the industrial area up the road, which apparently shut down during COVID. They got it restarted again. And yeah, the place is very, very impressive. It's nice to see that there are parts of South Africa which are developing and growing. So let's see if we can get Phumi on. Hello, Phums.
Me and the elf on the mic.
Yes.
Good morning.
Not elf on the shelf. How are you?
I am a day late to this week. Had I not received Rory's message late last night about talking points, I wouldn't have known that this is Thursday today. And but I'm here. I'm excited.
What, did you
Good
just
morning.
lose track of the day? Did you lose track of which day of the week it was?
Completely. It's now, we're now in that part. We are now in the part of the year that's a mad rush to get everything done before people go off on the holidays.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So this is sorry everybody that I am late, but I am here, and I'm always excited to be here.
Are you all sorted and ready to get going for the festive season? Have you got your dates lined up, your plans, who you having supper with, who you having lunch with, who you inviting, who you buying presents for, all of that stuff? Are you sorted?
Are you mad? I don't even have my Christmas tree up and I'm horrified.
Yeah, I only put mine up on the 12th. We had this discussion the other day. 12 days before, 12 days after, and we're done. That's enough.
Listen, I was ready to put mine up after we won the World Cup. I was done. I was already in the mood. I was like, this is it. It's December. We're in. And then
I don't know if you can see here, but there's a big Christmas tree in the background.
I see that Christmas tree. You're also around the corner from the Spur head office.
Oh, really?
Century City over there. Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I must tell you, there are a whole lot of new factories. I noticed that Puma are down here, yeah. And I think what the Western Cape government is doing, and again, to their credit, is they are seeing an opportunity here to take big business away from Joburg and to say to people, well, you know what we'll do? We'll give you certain benefits and advantages to moving here, apart from the obvious ones about better roads, and infrastructure and all of the stuff that Joburg is really struggling to provide. I mean, we can't even provide ourselves at this point with a mayor. So how are we going to bother with all the other stuff that we have to do
It's
in
very smart.
South
Listen,
Africa?
I was actually thinking one of the people that we saw yesterday was a big IT business, and
Oh, yeah?
obviously all of the stuff that they're struggling with are all of those things. It's water, it's
Yeah.
lights, it's which is, the South African reality. But I was thinking, and so one of their problems is around talent. And I was thinking this morning driving here, you know what is the thing that South Africa still has to attract people from all over the world is we just have an incredibly amazing country. And now with remote work, we've got an incredible climate, and we really do have a good
Yeah.
quality of life. Can
Oh,
you
yes.
imagine if you had a campus, if you had an IT campus in Mpumalanga near the game farms and all of that? You could get IT professionals from all over the world to come and do a stint with you for
Well, I mean,
6 months.
what you're talking about is like Wakanda, and it's in our grasp if we just got our shit together. And part of this, I mean, part of this is having smart people run things instead of morons. And we've got morons at the moment. I don't know if you saw, but yesterday the ANC was celebrating like mad animals because they managed to pass the NHI. The parliamentary caucus even sent a picture out saying how they're celebrating. I mean, it's just, if that's worth celebrating, I don't know what is. Here's a picture. The NHI, the ANC Parliamentary Caucus welcomes the passing of the NHI bill. Will leave no one behind.
So that was the last order before they closed, because yesterday was their
Correct.
last sitting.
They need to have something to talk about at the election, and they're going to spin this like it's a good story.
Listen, they just need to pay their bills. They may not make it into the new year. They've got bigger problems than that.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this yesterday, and Congo Chris actually brings it up in the comments. He says, can we talk about the looming ANC liquidation and potential disqualification from the election if they do go into liquidation? So is it true that if you are a political party and you're in liquidation, you can't stand for election?
Look, I think it stands to reason that would be it. I asked that question about 2 weeks ago when the liquidation story kept getting momentum. And I don't know. I haven't had the chance to look up that particular part of what the IEC has to say or what the electoral bill has to say about an organization that obviously, because once you get liquidated, you as an organization, you're actually no longer a going concern. So
Correct.
how are they going to do that?
Oh.
Listen, this liquidation story, I cannot believe that all these news agencies, ENCA, Newsroom, all of those guys it's like Christmas. If I was an executive producer of a news show, there would be a different angle to the story every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
Like, can you on Monday when all those sheriff trucks arrived outside Lutuli House, you could have had an entire day of content around the sheriff, right? And how the sheriff works, and had vox pops in the streets asking people if they've ever had a sheriff come knocking. Did you know that the sheriff's band actually is written sheriff?
and you would have such funny comments from people, because it seems to me that there are so many people who are taking absolute glee in how the ANC are going to be liquidated. I mean, clearly some people are just thrilled. But how did we not know that this is the best way to get them out of the election? How did we not know this? Everybody's campaigning and they're wondering about, which party to vote for and voter registration, and let's get the messaging right on this front and that front. All we had to do is get them to spend all of their money.
Last night,
which the ANC are very good at, by the way. That's like asking a vampire bat to suck blood. They do it anyway.
Last night, when I saw the video of Fikile's press conference, saying he'd put his head on the block that the ANC would never get liquidated. I was just like, I hope somebody draws the cartoon of like a guy with his axe up and they've got 2 judgments against them. They've got nowhere else to go. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Don't want a cartoon. He said he put his head on the block.
So we want to. Have you got the axe?
I'm going to take him literally. No, I'm not going to kill him. I don't want to kill anybody. But I'd like to see the sheriff bring down the financial axe on the ANC, wouldn't you? Tabo says the whole sheriff thing is a ruse. What do you think of that?
Oh, except for the fact that it is not. Except for the fact that it is not.
You want to see the clip? Watch this quickly. Here it is. Let me just show you this. Yes, Fikile.
I can put my head on the block and no one will liquidate the African National Congress. As the ANC, we are not going to an AI-generated Zulu, artificial intelligence. They've got their case, they've won their case in different platforms. Our biggest worry was to surrender to a fraudulent matter, which will lead the ANC paying millions of rands to something that never happened. If we procured posters 102 million, those organizations who know how much it cost for a poster, the ANC campaign and everything else, it would have meant that we still have those posters up until now. It's a lot of money. But nonetheless.
All right. I mean, that's enough. We've heard enough.
No, Gareth. Like, where are the think pieces around these posters? How many posters could they have had? How much would each
100?
poster
Okay,
have
so
cost?
102 million. I mean, you tell me what you think.
I think that the number of posters was actually something like 300,000 posters or something of that sort.
Okay.
Listen, I did already do this calculation. It would have been 3,400 rand a poster.
Wow. I mean, you know what quality of poster you want for 3,000 odd rand a poster? Holy shit!
Where are
really?
the SMSs? Like, but okay. Seriously though, here's my last very important thing to ponder and a serious question, which I cannot believe we haven't read anyone talking about it. And this is what happens when the media favors a particular president. Is what Fikile Mbalula is actually saying in that clip is that we are going to see a ANC led by Cyril Ramaphosa that is quite blatantly saying it is willing to defy the courts.
Correct. And
that's what he's saying. He's saying they have had 2 court judgments, but it will never happen. So that's what he is saying.
Yeah, correct.
So interesting times.
He's allowed to say that and get away with it, which is just mind-boggling because we talk about a separation of powers in this country, the judiciary, legislature. I had the IEC in on Tuesday, and they were telling me, you know, how important it is that we're a constitutional democracy and all that stuff. Well, clearly not to Fikile and to Cyril. They're not interested in that stuff. Right?
But we are being let down by the third estate. They should be, they really should be holding their feet to the fire here.
The fourth.
And I mean, it's fourth. Sorry, what did I say? You see,
you said the third estate.
Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. But yeah, these are the things that we should be really paying attention to.
Here's something quite interesting. So I don't know if this is true or not, but Congo Chris says that the ANC's finger pointing at Ezulwini, saying that they bribed some ANC staffers. And what they failed to realize is the correct thing to do is to arrest the staffer for corruption. Of course, they will never do that.
Well, in the court papers, what Ezulwini provided the court as proof of the work done and the approvals is also a series of SMSs and WhatsApps agreeing to the positions where the posters were being put up, agreeing to the artwork, so all the thumbs ups they've got. Where are those SMSs in the media? Why has nobody called the number that has sent these SMSs? Because all of that is public information. Once it's in court documents, as you know, it's publicly available information. Why have they not called? Why don't we know who sent those SMSs?
Yes.
Who
Correct.
approved these things? Who are why don't we know those names? We know about Edwin Sodi. We know about, there's so many stories here.
Here's what I don't get, right? We've got all these processes in place all over South Africa now to try and stop crooked people from doing crooked things. You have to fill in, and this as a business owner, Phumi, you have to fill in tons and tons of paperwork for everything you do. That's just in the private sector, let alone government. The minute you deal with government, you have to do bucket loads of paperwork every time you get 5 Rand out of government or you put 5 Rand into government. Now, what good is all of that if it's possible for people to do all these dodgy deals that we hear about over and above the systems that are supposedly in place?
It's not just government, even with the private sector. So even dealing with private companies, you have procurement issues. You have you have hoops to jump through. You have delegations of authority in terms of who can sign off how much. So it's not just in government, it's even in private sector. Yesterday, I was at what shop was I in? I don't know. But there's a guy who wanted to buy a prepaid SIM card. He had his driver's license, and the person on the other side of the till said, no, we can't sell you this. And he was like, but you can use my driver's license, surely. And they said, yeah, but we also need 3 months bank statements.
Oh, you're joking.
Which is not true, right? All they really need is they need his proof of address. But that person on the other side of the till telling this poor guy, I need 3 months bank statements from you to buy a prepaid SIM card.
That's ridiculous.
Tells you how much regulation we live with. And people are aware of it on a day-to-day, but here we are.
And all it does is slow down actual business. Because if you spend most of your time, if you're the kind of person who does a lot of things in a day, you're a trader, you've got important things happening, and you need to cut through the bureaucracy, the red tape, the paperwork. You obviously are going to be stuck with less time to do the actual business because all this stuff is taking away your concentration and your resources. It's stupid. And for what? It's not like they're using Fika to track down crooks, right? So I'm going to put this up. Because I know it'll irritate you. I don't know. I haven't fact-checked this yet. I wouldn't know how to. Someone sent this to me. We were talking about Woolworths earlier this week. Tell me if you think this is true. Woolworths COO, Sam Ngomeni, took home 97.14 million Rand for the year. That's an increase of 323% from what he received in 2022. That's 266,000 Rand a day, if you do the calculations. You think that's about right?
Yeah, we've had this conversation about CEO pay. That's C-suite. Nice job if you can get it. In fact, we spoke about this when the numbers for the CEO, I think she's now left, when her bonus and take-home pay. And that was when everybody was in an uproar about the fact that 6 liters of milk at Woolworths was 116 Rand. So
you got to pay these executives, right?
How are you going to pay this 266? Yeah. And that's actually shame, man, very low compared to other C-suite executives as we've seen over the past.
Shame. So you think he's underdone?
Shame, man. Shame.
Jesus, 266,000 Rand a day. I mean, please. What? I mean, it's not as if this guy is changing the world of retail.
Shame, man. Shame.
Someone said
he's been underpaid. He is shame.
Shame for him. Tracy says, I love the photo shoot with a JSE listed company without complying and completing a mountain high pile of paperwork,
Mm.
short from giving DNA in a stool sample. No, that's ridiculous.
Oh,
and you see,
man.
I mean, that's for her to do a photo shoot, for heaven's sake. So
Sure.
here I've got something fun for us this morning, because we've been serious so far. Inevitably on a Thursday we end up talking
We
about
have
politics.
not been serious. It's a
Well,
serious matter.
Serious matter, but we don't take any of this seriously. So take a look at this quickly. There's some acronyms. This actually came up in Monday's show with Leanne and Bakabantu, where we looked at acronyms that the kids are using now. If you know, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to look at some other ones here. Take a look at this quickly. So we've got some useful ones here. Do you know any of these, Booms?
I know IMHO. I know IOI, that IAM.
It's okay, I'm a medievalist. You knew it's okay, I'm a medievalist. Really? I didn't know
Don't
that.
even ask. That last one, however.
Okay, so let me go through them, and then we can let everybody know what they are. TIL means today I learned. So you obviously see a lot of people who find some banal thing like coffee is hot, and then they put today I learned, TIL, coffee is hot, and you're like, shame, you really don't know anything. TLDR is used regularly in business, especially. So people will attach emails and summaries to things. They'll say, too long, didn't read. So, for example, if someone sends you a link, you click on the link and it's like an 8-page article that you have to read in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. So some people just reply, too long, and then a semicolon, didn't read, DR, TLDR. That one I've seen before, and it's definitely used in all kinds of communication, not just with the kids or on social media. Then there's in my humble opinion, or in my honest opinion, IMHO, which is what Phumi uses occasionally. Very good. FTFY, fix that for you. I love that, because sometimes someone in the company is really good at solving problems, and there's an email and everyone in the company is copied. We all know how this works, right? And then someone who's worth their 97 million rand a year or whatever says, FTFY, fix that for you. Done. Problem solved. NSFW, obviously we all know that, not safe for work. That's if you put like filthy stuff on the group WhatsApp message, or you send out an email and you think it's just for your friends, and you warn them, not safe for work, because people will open that stuff and it's very embarrassing, right, Phumi?
Yeah.
Then we got NH and then semicolon SM. Need help, send memes. Now that's good. That's like a cry for help, but in a positive way. Then one of my favorite ones, although I haven't used it yet, is SSATLOA, which is still sad about the Library of Alexandria.
What would require that kind of a response?
If you're having a really, really hard day and people are just piling on and there's a lot of complaining and everybody's just at their wits' end, then what you do is you say, hey guys, SSATLOA, I'm still sad about the Library of Alexandria. And then they'll all go, I mean, if they're good people, they'll reply immediately and they'll go, oh, me too. Same,
Oh, they'll
same.
send you memes. They'll
Yeah,
send
exactly.
you memes as per the last one.
There we go. NHSM. Then you get IISIS. You know what this is? It's from Lord of the Rings. It's from Lord of the Rings.
Interesting. Yeah.
So this is what Gandalf says to Frodo. No, not to Frodo, to Bilbo Baggins. And he comes into his house and he goes, is it secret? Is it safe? So if, for example, there's some big company secret that you are meant to keep, or there's some email that you got that you weren't meant to share with anyone, or there's a bit of gossip, then you have to go up to the staff member who you think may be a leak and go, is it secret? Is it safe? And hopefully they'll shut their goddamn mouths. Then this one is becoming more and more popular. You know, we talked about this not so long ago on the show.
Yeah.
HYTATRET. And guess what? Yesterday, it came up in conversation, the Roman Empire. Have you thought about the Roman Empire today? HYTATRET. Have you thought about the Roman Empire today? And of course, every self-respecting man in the world will say yes, at least once a day to that
At
question.
least once a day. There are
least.
many in our day-to-day lives, especially with the conflict now in the Middle East. Again,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
thinking about that Roman Empire.
Big time. We always think about the decline and fall of an empire because it reminds us of our place in history. These are the big things that big thinkers think. Okay, and then the last one. I don't know if this is an acronym that many of us use. SWLIPSINBFASOG. Don't even try to write that down. I'll explain it to you in a second, and you can back engineer this one. If you've ever watched Monty Python, I think it's from The Last Crusade. No, not The Last Crusade. The Search for the Holy Grail. Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail. There is a scene where King Arthur finds this peasant woman who's busy digging. Peasant man who's busy digging in the peat. And he says to him, old woman. He goes, man. He goes, old man. I'm not old. He says, well, how old are you? I'm 37. And this is how the conversation starts. And then eventually the peasant who's digging and rummaging around in the mud says, who are you? He goes, I'm Arthur, King of the Britons. Who? King of the who's? King of the Britons.
King
You're a
of the
Briton.
what?
We are all Britain. Anyway, they eventually get to this question. And if you're a fan of Monty Python, you'll love this already. But they get to this point where they talk about how he became king. Because this peasant is like, you're not my king. He goes, yes, I am. And then he says, but how did you become king? So he says, well, the lady of the lake, her arm clad in the most shimmering samite, held aloft Excalibur, the sword, from the bosom of the water, thereby signifying that I, Arthur, would be king of the Britons. And this guy goes, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government, which is the acronym. SWLIPSINBFASOG. So, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government is a great acronym. If you find yourself able to use that acronym on a daily basis or even once every 1,000 years, use it. Right, Booms?
It's right. It's funny because it's true.
Damn straight. I want to add one that I use with one of my friends often. And we talk about it's good to be the king, right? So it would be IGTBTK. It's good to be the king. And that comes from Mel Brooks's History of the World, where he's got King Louis XVI, who's going around. He basically humps all the women in the court. He does what he wants. He chases someone away. He pisses in a pot. And then all he does is he looks at the camera like this and he goes, it's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
And that's a great line to use too. So if you're having a particularly good day, things are going your way, you've made some decisions, you've asserted your dominance over society, you go, it's good to be the king. That's what you need to do. Do you have any others that you use?
No, I don't use lots of acronyms, dude. I don't use lots of acronyms. And
are you joking? I went to a company the other day. I was sitting in one of their presentations. They had so many acronyms that I'm surprised they had space for anything else. The acronyms were piled high to the roof. You know, when people talk about KPIs and ROI and you know these things, this lingo they use in corporations.
WTF.
No, I promise you.
Look, we did have
a whole language. There's a language that gets spoken in corporate South Africa that the rest of us who are not in that world don't even understand.
And it's also different for different types of corporations. So depending on the sector, it's wild out there, yo. It's wild out there.
The finance guys have a whole language of their own. The marketing people have a totally different language.
Kaneho told me on the weekend, Kaneho told me that scuba is an acronym. What?
Oh?
I'm going to look it up now. Acronym. Yep.
Listen, I have to tell you, while you're looking that up.
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Oh, okay. So the actual term, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's not just a made-up word. So I have to tell you quickly, I'm sitting at, there's a conference center just across the road from us here. And I don't know what's going on, but before I even set up for the show this morning at like 5 o'clock, there's some kind of Isxhosa gathering. There are people in traditional garb. There are guys who are wearing the beads, and there are guys who are wearing what's that sort of roll with the animal skin with a feather in it that Mangosuthu used to wear. What is it called?
I don't know. I don't know.
What is it? What do they call it in Zulu?
Like the one that the Zulu people wear, umqhele. Yeah.
But the people, I'll ask permission. I don't want to just put people on camera without their permission.
Are they in the conference center?
Yeah, there's a whole delegation of them here, all dressed beautifully. I mean, the colors are just amazing. The beaded dresses, the guys are wearing very smart headdresses. I mean, it's really quite impressive.
Maybe
so I'll see if I can't ask them what's going on.
Maybe it's a conference that to set out, because it's about to be Mgidi season down there in the Cape.
Oh, right.
All the Amakwets are coming back, so all them Mgidis. Maybe it's a conference of the rules and regulations of all of that.
Like the traditional leaders are getting together.
Maybe it's one of those, because it's about to go down. Baba, we are a week away from Mgidi season, right?
Well, it's interesting if that is the case, that a lot of the traditional leaders, if these are all traditional leaders, are quite young. Then they're not old people.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Well, look, we this year, in the course of some of the work that we've done, we have made some really young chiefs, like the Tsonga King Ndwandwe Nxumalo out in Limpopo.
Did you just make that up?
No, I'm not. Why would I be?
You were like,
I was trying to think, because I remember it's Zulu. It's Zulu, right? Because Tsonga people and Zulu people have a shared history.
Yes.
We met one down in KZN. Mulefe. He's a Mulefe. Remember when I told you about the Sutu tribe in the middle of KZN? Their chief, he's very young. So it's good. It's good, because I think that the ones I have met have new ways and ideas that they are thinking about what it means to take the umbhaco, sesanele is what the traditional garb in Xhosa is called. And it's exciting. It's exciting, I think, to see young people in those positions of leadership in their communities. And I hope they take it seriously. If they're having a conference, maybe they're taking it seriously and thinking through things together.
Here are some pretty cool comments. Carl uses the following acronym: PGOOMOFIAE, which is, please get out of my office, I'm eating.
Stop eating in your office, Carl.
Yes.
You get out of the office and eat somewhere else.
It's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah, that's Dave. You must use that if you want to. I give permission for everyone who listens to this show to use that one. And so there are lots of people here in the comments talking about the Eastern Cape. Hey, we're not in the Eastern Cape. There's nothing to do with the Eastern Cape this morning. We're not talking about that province at all. I have no time for the Eastern Cape. We're talking about the Western Cape today because I'm here.
Oh, look at that. So 2 people, Yonda in the comments is saying that it might be an event. Maybe it's a Christmas party, and that was the
might be.
Might be. And Justice is saying it might be the Umhlobo Wenene Awards celebration.
Oh, that could be interesting. Okay, I'll look into it. We'll find out just now what's happening. And by the way,
until somebody tells me what it is, I'm going to think it's a conference to get ready for Mgidi season.
In about 7 minutes, we'll be doing our special window seat which is
Ah,
our travel feature with travel.co.za. And we're going to have lots of fun with this morning because we're going to be talking about the things that happen in travel that you don't expect to happen, those things that go wrong. So I want to talk about, because
oh,
everybody always talks about when it works. Oh, I had this fantastic holiday. And these days everyone's on Instagram all the time, showing off how great their holidays are, including me. But I think it's time we get to the truth and we talk about what actually happens when travel goes wrong. So we've got a
there's
couple of
a
stories.
lot of that on
Oh yeah.
that on TikTok.
Yeah, well, you see, you go on TikTok. I don't. I refuse to become an agent for the Chinese Communist Party.
Eventually, all of us will be. Eventually, all of us will be.
Right. So Justice says the Mhlobo Wenene Awards, and then someone else here was talking about what it might be too. They might also just be doing their daily stuff, apparently. Culture is celebrated loudly and often in Cape Town, and people regularly just wear traditional garb in their daily lives, which is great. Why wait for Heritage Day to dress in your, the traditional garb of the English is the suit, right? That doesn't mean that has to be everybody's traditional garb. I mean, look at my shirt today. I'm going a little bit East Plaza this morning.
Oh, I thought it was festive.
No, this
It
is
looked
this is from one of our local designers here in South Africa.
nice.
Yeah, yes. I bought this about 3 years ago, so forgive me if I can't remember who the designer was. But I sometimes, I like, you wear this overseas and people are like, whoa, that's amazing. And I don't know the first thing about fashion, so you must understand how long it took me to figure this stuff out. All right, so here's a good one. Sanele says, my acronym is short and bitter, CT, coffee time, and Cape Town, funnily enough. It's coming right up at 7 a.m. Absolutely.
Coffee time.
Very
That
good.
is a cool one.
When last did you dress up in traditional garb, Pums?
Oh, it's been a while. Partly because I normally dress up when I go to parties, when I go, so that kind of stuff will always get me out into like traditional, and I've got lots of different ones. The one that I can't believe I still don't have is the shibelane, which is
Tell
the
me what that
Tsonga.
is.
It's the Tsonga traditional garb. It's what Shoma Josie.
Yes.
She's always in that like frilly like skirt
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It's called the shibelane. I can't believe I don't have one of those.
And do you
'cause
ever go with
that is cool.
Do you ever go, I mean, like, I don't know what the age limit is on this, but do you ever go to those reed dance ceremonies and you sit and watch because you're not actually participating, but you also have your topless? Is there any of that going on?
I don't have the breasts to go topless, unfortunately. My breasts have been decimated by having just one child. Imagine people who've had 4. I'm just
No, you got to check this stuff out. You got. I've often seen the reed dance, and I love the way on TV they try to obscure it. They like get the cameras far away, and these girls have got their whole outfit on, and it's only from the bottom down, right?
half the outfit. And because the whole thing about it is they, young nubile virgins, so they all have
Yes.
great tits. I hate it.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's good to be the king, right? Just in case you didn't know where that acronym was going to be applied today, I've just shown you exactly where it's good to be the king.
Speaking of bare-breasted young maidens, I
Oh,
saw
I'm
a
so
picture.
glad you brought this up. Let's carry on talking about this for the rest of the show. Go on.
I saw a picture
Go on.
because, of course, Mswati was one of the first ones that made this a very popular reed dances very popular.
Yes.
And I saw a picture the other day, and Swati men also wear kind of this the word that most South Africans would know, kanga type
Yeah.
cloth, but
Yes.
over the one boob, so
Yes.
that
So
they have one nipple
across.
out.
Sure.
You know who was sitting on the floor on a kanzi nearby?
No.
Our former deputy president, D.D. Mabuza,
Oh,
also
really?
freeing his nipple.
That must have been exciting.
For him, yeah. But it was quite interesting, because Mpumalanga also has a very big Swati population,
Sure, of course.
bordering Swaziland. So
Sure.
there was no context to this picture other than somebody just laughing about the fact that he was out there freeing his nipple. But to see Didi Mabuza, we haven't seen or heard of that man in
No, he
months.
disappeared. But remember, he was very, very badly behaved, and he was our deputy president for a while. Nothing except ratchet up expenses, and now suddenly we're meant to just forget that he ever existed. I mean, he would like that because we know he was involved in some skullduggery at the behest of various ANC factions. So it's interesting that he's just quietly gone into the background. I'm very glad you picked up that he was at that ceremony.
It was very interesting to watch, and I wondered what was happening and why he was there. But there he was in his full traditional
very
nipple
good.
out and
okay,
all.
So just quickly before we get to our window seat for this morning, so Tabo says, "You're reminding me of the great Shaka Ilembe series. Please tell me more about the young maidens and their breasts."
Aye, man, Tabo.
And then quickly. At least we
This
know
is a
our audience
serious
take everything very
conversation.
seriously. Very serious. And Tracy says her favorite acronym is BDYD. But did you die? In any situation, that's a good one.
That is a good one, particularly for mothers. This coming, it's
sure.
listen, school holidays. I think today is, for most people, today is day one of the school holidays. And it is, as everybody knows, the longest school holiday because it's probably about 40 days between now and the 17th of January.
What are you going to do with the children for 40 days?
And 40 nights.
No, that's like Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Right? 40 days. Isn't 40 days and 40 nights the amount of time that the Israelites spent in the desert? Or was that
No,
40
it was
years?
40 years. It was 40 days.
No,
40
days and 40 nights. Hang on. Let me just test my Bible knowledge from, I'm going to do recall from school times now. We learned that it was the flood that was 40 days and 40 nights.
It is also the fasts are 40 days. So 40 days is 40 is a significant number in the Bible. I'm just saying that did you die? BDYD. BDYD is going to be very important, especially when it comes to the I'm bored.
Yes, I'm bored. That's the worst thing. So here quickly, Melissa says, Esh, my homeland. I was there too many times this year. I purposely volunteered to be on call on Christmas not to have to go home. Enjoy the chaos, Sanela. Because they're talking about the Eastern Cape again.
Where is the homeland? Ooh.
Angas. Okay,
Eastern
I think
Cape.
Jesus was supposedly in the desert for 40 days or something.
Fasting.
And 40 days and 40 nights is the Arabian Nights. Okay, you see, I wasn't wrong. I just said Alibaba and the 40 thieves, but there's a number. There's this thing about 40, which is a big deal. All right, where are Tracy and Monet? We need them here. I want to get them on to talk about their travel experiences.
Maybe they overslept.
No. The Jews spent 40 years looking for a penny that they heard someone drop. Very anti-Semitic, Darren.
Darren?
I mean, really, that's like such an old trope. Skullduggery is a noun that refers to dishonest or deceitful behaviors, cunning schemes, or underhanded activities. It implies trickery, manipulation, unscrupulous actions intended to achieve personal gain or advantage, says Dave. Skullduggery, it's a big part of what happens in the ANC. All right, let me get this camera ready for Tracy Monet. They're here for us. And then in the meantime, Pums, can you just take us what we're going to be talking to Phumlani about in the Burning Platform in a couple of minutes?
Listen, Phumlani, I can't wait for Phumlani. He's going to be in the studio. We haven't had him in the studio for a long time. He's going to be in the studio with us, and we're going to be chatting about his book that is just come out. I don't think he's had his launch yet, but his book has just come out that he's written, and it's all of Phumlani's ideas, all of Phumlani's thoughts about, I suppose, like everybody is doing right now, considering what we need to be doing to fix our country at the moment. So I cannot wait for him to be here. And
All right,
to speak
awesome.
about that, just the warning, it's not light reading.
No, we'll get to that though just now. Okay, so this is where we do the window
Hello.
seat. This is Monet Dupré, who's the big boss at TTS, that's Tourist Travel Services. And we had a big event last night with all of your retail partners down here in Cape Town and the retail businesses. Tourvest, by the way, is enormous. And we've spoken already to a couple of people in the business. But you know those shops in the airports, Pums?
Yeah.
Out of Africa, those shops? They belong to these
Yes.
guys. These guys run all of that too. There are hotels and lodges all over South Africa and outside of South Africa, in Zim, in East Africa, some amazing properties too. But these guys are going to talk today, and here's Tracy, by the way, who does events and marketing for Tourvest Travel Services as well. We're going to talk about the stuff that nobody ever talks about, though. This is way more interesting to most people because actually there are funny things that happen in travel, which not everybody is happy to talk about. This doesn't go on the Instagram pictures.
Exactly.
You know,
That's
like
because it's not funny in the moment.
No, I know, but we were talking about this last night, and there were some very funny stories. So I'll just kick it off because the boss of your AHA division, which is your African hotels and accommodation division, and there are AHA hotels, but they also do lots of lovely game lodges and things. He was telling us that when he worked in Cape Town in one of the hotels, something that used to happen often, and you got to explain this to me if you know the answer, is guys would order room service. And then the room service would arrive, so they'd eat their food. And for some reason, they'd decide, okay, they want to put the tray outside. So they'd go out of the hotel room, put the tray down, but then the door of the room closes behind them. And for some reason, a lot of these people, either they like to eat naked or they like to, I don't know, take the tray out naked, and then they're stuck outside their room with no clothes on. And then they have to head down to reception, which is very embarrassing. Sometimes there are lots of other people in the hotel, and ask for a new room card. So this has never happened to me, so I'm not sure why people would be eating naked on the bed. I have no idea why people would behave like this, but that's one of the things that apparently happens often in hotels.
Often.
So Monet, you've traveled all over the world. Monet just went to the Rugby World Cup, among other things, the Ryder Cup. He travels probably more than anyone else I've ever met. What kinds of things have happened to you? And lay it out there. Don't be embarrassed.
So, you know, sometimes I'm very fortunate that I travel in the front of the bus, especially on the newer airlines. You've got a bit of a cabin and the cabin closes.
Yeah.
On these long flights, especially to the US, when you're 15 hours on the flight and you think I don't have to go to the bathroom, and you hold it in. But about 9 hours is about the max that you can do it. And you think, I'm just going to squeeze the little ones through. I just lift the side of my leg up like that while I'm lying in my bed. And it comes out rather softly, but it smells not that great. And at that point in time, said cabin crew member puts head over the side like that to see if you'd like something.
Always at the moment that you like.
Always at that moment that they get that whiplash in the neck.
Yeah.
So would you like something to eat?
No. What's this guy been doing here? All right, Trace, what about you?
My best are always my Airbnb experiences.
Airbnb. Okay, because you never know what you're really going to get until you get there.
Yeah, so I think I'm very smart. So, like, saving a buck or two for my personal travel.
Yeah.
And so I booked all these amazing little Airbnbs, what I think are amazing, but actually are absolute shitholes. So I'm in the one in Istanbul, and I took two of my friends or colleagues.
Yeah.
And I promise you, there were dead cockroaches like this, like honestly huge, at the entrance of the property. And on the Airbnb, the photos look amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, but they always, I mean, even in this country, we were talking about this with Lebang, who Lebang is frequently scammed for some reason. She's obviously she's a moving target for any scammer. Totally. And when people see Lebang, they just see, here's someone we can take for whatever. And she's had like really bad experiences with Airbnb. So it's probably better to go into the hotels. But Graham is actually here, who told us about the guys who get locked out of the rooms naked while they're ordering room service. I mean, if we go into the darker things, because people do like weird stuff in hotels. They go to hotels and they commit suicide. You have to like get rid of bodies. There are also people who go and they would never behave like this in their own home. They abuse the bathroom horrendously, and then someone
That's
has
what
to
you
take care of
think.
that. No, they do, Phumi. They do.
No, I'm saying you think they don't behave like that in their own homes.
Oh, you mean they do behave like that in their own
Oh,
homes? We just don't see it.
Why would you do something you don't ordinarily do?
Well, listen to this. Tracy says we stayed in a Bosnian B&B in Tasmania. We ended up staying in their bedroom, all of their toiletries in our bathroom, condoms and utility bills in the bedside tables.
Oh, no.
And we had breakfast with their family. Sounds
No
lovely.
ways.
That
No
sounds
ways.
Yeah. Oh, listen to this. Darren says, I'm sitting with Mornay's mother-in-law right now, Kat.
Oh, wow.
She says, hi, Mornay. So you never know who's going to be listening. Right, so what else? What else has happened to you guys? You talk about planes.
Yeah, there's always those type of things. You know, when you think you're gonna pick the bulkhead seat because it's gonna give you that extra leg room. As you go and sit down there, wife on this side with their child, husband on that side with their child, and you know where your feet's going to be.
Middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
2 hours into the plane.
And there's no negotiating.
No negotiating. Projectile vomit from both sides.
Oh
No.
That's that's really the best. So sometimes
Phumi's
those bulkhead
horrified.
those
She just
bulkhead
said,
seats aren't the best.
No. Yeah, no. That's horrible. All right. So we've got a couple of other comments here too. People said, Gareth, you must stop walking around naked. Hey, I haven't. So I don't know what you're talking about there, Matthew. How's the hotel business in Zim, says Sanele. How's all of that going? That's actually a good opportunity to boast a little bit about what's happening there.
Fantastic. I mean, our Wild Horizons business is unbelievable. So it's probably one of the better world machines within the whole tourist fold. We've got 3 lodges, all in close proximity. Quite a lot of activities, and the Lookout Cafe, which is probably one of the better restaurants in.
Gareth,
is,
something's
but
happened to your
unbelievable.
camera
I think they're running occupancies close to 90-95%. So
That's
really,
amazing.
really good. Vic Falls is definitely it's a destination on its own. So it might be located in Zim, but really it's an absolute paradise. So those of you that haven't gone there, please go and pop around, jump onto YouTube, go and have a look at some of the videos. And I think, Gareth, in some of your previous podcasts, you've actually highlighted your stay that you had with us there.
Yeah, it was amazing. But you've got properties here in Cape Town with Wild Horizons too. In fact, we gave away some prizes last night,
So
which are pretty cool. Abseiling off Table Mountain, Phumi.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff happening.
Shark
That's
Cage diving.
amazing.
Wild Horizons is really in the South African sphere, very much an activities-driven business.
Sounds amazing. All right, so let's just, while we're talking about the business, because I think this is interesting to a lot of people, what kind of a year has Tourvest had? I mean, you guys get to work the hardest while we're all on holiday. December comes along. It's not like it's the end of the year for you. For you guys, it's like right in the middle of what you're doing. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So, the Greater Tourvest, we've been very, very fortunate that after COVID, things have jumped back quite amazing. And we ended up having our record year. Our year end was at the end of August. So we ended up having a record year. We're almost 4 months now into our new financial year. And I've got to say, touch wood, things are all still going up. So,
That's
I mean,
wonderful.
Can you imagine if we had this conversation while we were in COVID? I don't think anyone would have predicted that.
No, definitely not. I think, fortunately, and I don't necessarily think it's for all the South African tourism businesses, but definitely we've been lucky that we've outgrown 2019, and people keep on harping on 2019 and jumping back to those days. I think it's now long gone. We must stop talking about that.
Agreed.
Start looking forward. But for us, great
Agreed.
Guns.
All right, so
I have
we're
one
talking
question. I have one question though. One question before they go about.
ahead.
So, what to do? What do you do in situations where it's all going apeshape? When
Okay,
you're
this is a good
out
question.
in a funny country, whatever, they don't speak your language. How do you salvage your holiday?
So Phumi wants to know, if things go really horribly wrong, are there ways to salvage a terrible holiday? Let's say everybody gets sick. Let's say the bookings are a disaster. I mean, you guys
The
have obviously had
Airbnb's got
experience with
dead
this,
cockroaches.
Yeah, the Airbnb's got dead cockroaches, all of this stuff. So what do you do to salvage a really cuck
Money
situation?
helps.
What's that?
Money helps.
Money helps.
Having money.
And you probably have to just drink and make the best of a cuck
I mean,
situation.
if people get sick, they get sick. There's nothing you can do with it. That you just got to get through. But like the Airbnb situation that I went to in Paris with Graham, I mean, you had to go through 4 doors before you could get to your apartment. It was in such a cuck area. And then you go, no, we're not staying here. And you have the money to find a hotel. So if you don't have extra cash, you're screwed. So
Yeah. So actually just take extra money. And if you
money.
can't afford to travel, don't travel at this point, because if you end up in trouble, it's going to be a lot worse.
And a good attitude.
Good attitude.
Good
Yeah,
attitude.
Phumi, just get your attitude right. That's exactly the advice you need. You'll figure it out if you have
So
the right
have
attitude.
money. If you have money, you
Yeah.
always have the right attitude.
Correct. So somebody says here, KNA says, I fainted on a street in Hanoi. Woke up with a crowd of Vietnamese people looking at me like I was a foreign species. Well, who knows what you were doing
Yo.
while you'd fainted, right?
Yo,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah, that's
hectic.
dodgy. All right, I love it.
Mm.
But obviously, we're talking about those very rare occasions when things go horribly wrong, or when you do something embarrassing. Most of the time, this is what people spend their whole year saving up for. This is what they look forward to. And obviously, there are lots and lots of people who are already planning their travel for next year. They're already looking at what else they can do in order to give themselves a little break. Go to travel.co.za for all the very best destinations, all the very best offers and flights, accommodation, and everything else that you need to know. And we will be checking in with the window seat early in 2024, which is only a couple of days away. Everybody always thinks there's this long gap somewhere between December and January. There's no such thing. Before you know it,
It is. It's long days. It's long days, lounging, drinking, eating.
I know, it's ridiculous. Well, listen, thank you, Monet. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Don't know what
Thank
happened
you.
to my
Thanks,
camera
Gareth.
somewhere in the middle of that, but we'll
Okay,
figure it
no
out.
worries.
And Pums will be back with a burning platform next. Don't go anywhere. CliffCentral.com. It is a Thursday morning. Plenty of good stuff still to come.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Anyway, so this is the last episode of the year. So I thought maybe we could kick off the episode the same way we do every single year for the last 2 years now, by speaking by an armored vehicle. I don't know why that keeps happening, but last year, literally the last episode we did, we spoke about an armored vehicle.
You're kidding.
And right now, yeah, we had I think it was ArmorMax or one of our dealerships. We're talking about armored vehicles. So I thought maybe we can talk about the car that we're currently what the content team is reviewing, which is the G400 Stronger Than Time, the G-Wagon. And I heard you're going to be driving it actually.
Yes, so I'm going to be taking it home today.
Yeah.
Apparently, this car weighs about 3 tons.
Yeah, but just about 3 tons.
3 tons, and the armoring of the vehicle is about 1 ton.
Yeah.
So the vehicle naturally is about 2 tons. This adds another 30% to the car's weight.
Yeah.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
And when you go into this process world, it becomes a way of life. There's no end point. You will continually be refining. You will continually be improving your processes in your actual business. A good place to start, do your shopping properly and understand what your end goal is. Shop properly, do your homework, understand what you want. What is the end game of looking at process in your organization? Is it around compliance management? Is it about automation? Is it about visibility of process? Is it around standardization? Have an end goal in mind and then go for it.
Thanks for listening to Unbundled, brought to you by Catalytic, a series that aims to demystify technology so that you can make smarter decisions for your business. Remember that you can listen to all of the episodes on the Cliff Central app or website. And for added convenience, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And remember, if you're looking for help with communications tools in your business, please make sure to visit catalytic.co.za.
I couldn't go and look for it.
Wherever it may be.
All right.
No, these major bookstores.
Oh.
Okay.
Okie
Good
dokie.
morning. Okay, so we are live and I am back and we've got everything sorted. And Phumlani Majozi is in the studio. It's time for another burning platform. How are you, Phumlani?
I'm also, how are you?
It's nice to see you. Always dressed so smartly, and I'm so sorry I'm not in studio for you this morning because you,
Yeah, man,
you
I know I was
deserve
thinking
our
about this.
full attention. You know,
The tie and everything, Gareth.
I
Do you
know
see this?
he's so beautifully dressed, this guy, and he always knows
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
how to make us feel special. So listen,
Yes,
first
yes,
and
yeah.
foremost, before we get into anything else, everybody already knows the Burning Platform. You've been a guest on here before, but you've got some exciting news. You've got a brand new book out, and I actually received a like
There's the book.
PDF.
There is
There it
the
is.
book.
There it is. Lessons from
listeners?
past heroes. So tell us
Yes.
what this is and tell us how you came about writing this book and what the point of it is, because there's so many books. Everybody's talking about, writing their book. And these days it's a lot easier than it's ever been, which is a very good thing. But why did you think this book was necessary? And tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. So the book is already out. It is available in stores across South Africa. You can get it there. You can also buy it from me as well if you are based here in Johannesburg. So I'm also my own seller as well. And then what I've done here, Gareth, is to for those who have followed me for some time now, you will know that I have been very much vocal on the importance of a freer society, right? A society that embraces markets, or a market-driven economy, a society that embraces personal responsibility, a society that embraces law and order. So, and what I've tried to do with this book is to basically consolidate those ideas. But now, to explain to you how I do that in the book, let me just give you context as to how the book came about. So at one point, years back, I was invited at a conference in Nairobi. We had a small conference there. And as we returned, flying over Africa back to Johannesburg, so I'm told to look at Phumi here, so not to.
He's looking away. He's like so shy.
I'm a shy guy. Let me have my cup of coffee and then continue. Yeah, so Mr. Cliff. So and then as we came back, there is this in-flight magazine on SAA. And I see this in-flight magazine and I have a look inside it. I think it was the Sawubona magazine. When I see at the time, they were celebrating, the ANC government was celebrating Oliver Tambo. I think he had 100 years and they were remembering him. And a section there was about the life of Oliver Tambo. When I read in that magazine the achievements of this guy, personally, right, educationally, what it is he pursued to be a better person, right, what he did to advance himself, to succeed in an environment that was very hard to to achieve things at the time, the context of South Africa. And I was quite moved by his story, his personal achievement. And I was like, I think I should put together some form of a book where I basically look at pick up a few personalities who did amazing things at a time when the context or South Africa's setting was very difficult to navigate, especially for the majority of Black people. And I said, let me pick up these names and just do some profiles of these people, or do some portraits of these people, highlight their achievement, and say to South Africans, look, if there were people who could do these things at a time where things were very difficult for them, then what should we be complaining about now, right? We live in a democratic society. Our society is much open now. Everybody has a right to pursue their interests, and also we have a right as a people to hold our leaders to account. And that's what motivated me to write this book. And I said, you know what, let me explore these people and say to South Africans, if these guys could do it, what are we complaining about now? Let's fix our country. Let's focus on a few specific things that I mentioned in the book, that I explore in detail, and say, let's fix these things in order to make South Africa one of the best competitive, wealthier societies.
And for you, Gareth, 2023.
I thought you said make South Africa great again is basically the summary here. And I love the fact that there are two reasons that from what I heard you say here. Number one, there are loads of black leaders who are underrepresented in the history classes and in social media and online and in what they like to boast about these days in the ANC in particular. Those people deserve some attention. That's number one. And number two, these people were doing what they were doing at a time where it was extremely difficult to get ahead, to make things happen for black people in business, for black people in politics, for black people in society, to advance themselves. And yet they succeeded over all those obstacles, which is a tremendous story of human resilience, if nothing else. And I love that. I think it's such a great idea. Sorry, Pums, I interrupted you.
No, so, one of the chapters, and I'm just flipping through the book now, is really about the socioeconomic issues that were important to the founders of the ANC.
Yes.
Do you want to expand a little bit on that? And also what it looks like today? What do you think are the socioeconomic issues that are most important to worry about?
Yeah, in this day and age. Look, at the time, we need to understand the context of South Africa at the time, right? And this is early 1900s, right? When the ANC was formed at the time, and the mission or the goal with the formation of the ANC was for people of different tribes, black people, to come together. And remember, these were guys who were from central South Africa. These were guys from the east side, and some of the guys were from the colony. When you look at the cover of the book, you've got those personalities you see. That was the black elite. On the far left was Thomas Mapikela, right, who was from that side of Bloemfontein, and then you have Walter Rupusana, who was from the side of the Cape Colony, and then we have John Langalibalele Dube, we have Saul Msane, as well as Sol Plaatje as well. And this, when you look at these people, they came from different regions across the country to come together and basically to say, look, we live in a society where as black people, we are not being recognized. Remember, this was just 2 or 3 years later when the Union of South Africa was formed. The Union of South Africa was a state that didn't recognize black people, right? It was a formation of a state between, it was basically a white state, right? And there were laws, including the Land Act, that was passed at the time, which basically marginalized and ostracized black people. And these guys came together to say, look, we need to, and it was the first time, by the way, that people of these different regions, black people, could come together and try to form something national. And at the time, which is what I highlight in the book, the main issues were around how do we get to be recognized in the country, right? How do we get to be participants in the shaping of the governance of our country? That was the main critical thing at the time. And people, and I do highlight that at the time, even this was just a general trend around the world. Even when you look at the government spending rates at the time, this was where basically the ideas of Adam Smith, whom I do cite in the book, were much more recognized and embraced, that the economy must be largely driven by the market, right? That those, when you look at even the government spending, even in developed countries at the time, it was something around plus minus 10% of GDP at the time, and I do cite some academic studies there. So there was not much that they were not expecting that government should be the helper or the nanny or to take care of them. All what mattered to them the most was to
Yeah.
to have a voice in their society, for them to shape the governance of the country, and to have their own land, of which in many instances, of course, they had been marginalized and couldn't have full control of that. So those were
They
the
had
issues
it
at the
and they were
time.
dispossessed.
They were dispossessed. That's what I'm saying. Yes, because of the Union of South Africa, of the laws it pursued after that. After we had the union. So I mean, these guys were not, Gareth, the folks who were expecting much from government as we see today. The idea was that we want to be recognized.
They weren't even expecting much from society, because they were largely outsiders, and really they weren't getting any support from white business or from social institutions or any of that. There wasn't anything like that for black people in the 1900s in South Africa.
Yes, there wasn't. And these people, what I love about them the most was to go beyond, and to look at where can they get opportunities beyond South Africa. These guys I'm talking about, these guys, Gareth, they were educated overseas. Some of them lectured in the West, in USA, being lecturers there. They were educated in the UK, and then they would come back here and shape South Africa's or the black intellectualism at the time, and start newspapers, be writers, and so on. These people were world traveled, so they understood the world, which is just amazing when you think of that. At that time, we have people who were doing such things.
And what do we have? What do we have now?
So
now we have Fikile Mbalula.
So the second part of my question, though, was what about today? What if those were the issues then? How has it changed to now? And then also, what are the most important, in your mind, what are the most critical socioeconomic factors that we should be interested in and looking for ways to solve?
Well, the socioeconomic issues we face right now, look, we all now can shape the destiny of our country, no doubt. Anyone who says that, I would never say, I would never buy a person who still plays the victimhood card, which is what the subtitle of the book is. So we can shape our governance. We can pursue our dreams within a place that is much better than what it was back then. If you want to pursue, you have business ambitions, you can pursue that in the country. There's even various fundings that you can get through. So there is much even in education as well. I look at the achievements of that we've, in fact, the achievements and the failures when it comes to our education system in the post 1994 setting. But your question is, what are the issues right now? The issues right now are mainly having to do with how to deal with them very much shocking unemployment rates that we see in the country. The issues right now is how do we deal with the very fundamental problem of high crime rates, right? Those are the issues. The issues are about how do you deal with a state or a country where we really have serious issues around the family breakdown, right? The breakdown of families. We come from broken homes in this country, and that has a serious impact on our society. The issues are about a state that has become corrupt, right? How do you deal with the issues of corruption? The issues are about how do you deal with the issues of, again, we look at our borders as well. We need security there. How do we deal with those issues? So those are the fundamental problems right now that we face. And as I lay out in the book, that the economic state of our country requires that shift in thinking, right? Which I don't think we are seeing in the ANC so far, especially after Jacob Zuma. Because I do make the case that over the past, in fact, since the first two administrations in our democracy, they did better on the economy, right? And then the downhill or things going south began from the Zuma administration, and we haven't really been, we haven't reversed that decline. So those, I would say, are the issues that we have to deal with now. It's not the issues of, I'm not free. No, you are free now to do many things, right? In large part, in contrast.
Well, what about? I mean, let me play devil's advocate.
You are a devil. You are a devil anyway. So,
what the EFF say is, no, we haven't. The struggle is not over. We have not got economic equality, as if that's something noble to pursue, is equality. But is that a fool's errand, or are they just playing to the cheap seats, or are they playing to people's jealousy, bitterness, and resentment over being left out, and very often left out on purpose by the state and the institutions of state and the economy at large? And Phumi and I often talk about equality as being a thing, because just this morning we were talking about how much the Woolworths CEO earns, and shame, he's on a low salary compared to some CEOs. But the difference between those very wealthy people and those very poor people becomes an obsession for some, and it becomes a great political football to throw around for people on the left, like the EFF. Don't you agree?
Well, it is very important. It's very important, Gareth, to think about what we mean by equality, right?
Yeah.
And the equality that is sustainable and that can be achieved is the equality before the law, and the equality of opportunity, which I think is very important. And I have over the years argued that the government must concentrate more on trying to create opportunities for everybody in the country. And that's where equality, that's where we should focus when it comes to equality. The idea that you can have people who have different experiences, different skills, different educational levels, different talents, because talents are not even the same, earning the same or making the same wealth. That's not really possible. And if you try and do that, you are really going to cost the economy. You'll end up sort of ostracizing, not creating an environment where people can have an opportunity to strive for their goals and their ambitions. So my point is that our focus must be more in creating the equality of opportunity than the equality of wealth. Because if you want to achieve equality of wealth, the moment you focus there, the obsession will be, well, how do you take from one CEO or one person who earns X and give it to another person who earns who gets a different pay? And that to me is such redistribution is not an efficient way of addressing things. What you need to do, though, which is very important, is to upskill your people, that they have an opportunity and that they have a chance to pursue their dreams and their ambitions. And the way to do that is to invest, make sure that you invest in their educational attainment, their skills. You invest in entrepreneurship as well, along with the private sector. You can do those things. So that's where you want to create skills here and to increase and improve people's productivity, so that they can have an opportunity also to pursue their dreams, and hopefully make more incomes as well to catch up to other people.
Gareth, you wanted to say something?
No, I think that sounds like very obvious and reasonable to me. But for some reason, the inequality mantra seems very popular politically, and that's what I'm interested in. Why is it that so many, especially young people, are left out of the economy and are warm? They are warm receivers of the message that our biggest problem is that capitalism is a parasitic system which preys on the weak and the poor. I mean, you just got back from a conference in London, right? Tell us about that and what came up there, because it wasn't all just political. There must have been some discussions around economy, because we know that people in the world are suddenly starting, especially young people, to find themselves willing to listen to messages which we thought had died out and been defeated after the Cold War.
Yeah. Well, the ARC conference, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship Conference, is a brainchild of Dr. Jordan Peterson, right? Who is a famous psychologist. And he has put this forum together, Gareth. He basically, what he did is that he took people from around the world whom he, at least in his view and the views of the people he work with, right center and right people, right? And by right and right center, I'm talking about people who believe in liberty, individual freedom, freer markets. Those are the people who, in personal responsibility, those are the people that Professor Jordan Peterson gathered. So they spotted many of them around the world. And then I was one of them, one of those people I was invited to come through to attend the conference. And the objective of the conference is to basically remind, some of the guys that they were saying, well, we are defending Western values that are being attacked by wokeism, and so on. But I was thinking when I was sitting there, look, I'm a dude from a rural KwaZulu Natal, where I come from, yet I could affiliate to the conversation there. And you know why, Gareth? Because the values that were being discussed were universal values. We all want to be individual, free human beings, right? We all come from families. And that was some of the topics there were about families. How do we make families stronger? How do you ensure that we have free speech? Which is in many ways is being attacked. How do we fight back against the cancel culture that you, Gareth, yourself, some people have attempted to cancel you? So how do you fight back and push back against those disturbing trends in democracies? And Jordan is trying to do that. And his message is this: look, we have an opportunity to fix our countries. Let's not be convinced that the fundamentals of markets and capitalism, they are evil. It's an evil system. No, it's a system that is better than others, right? Because it allows for individual freedom. It allows for faster growth in economies, and that was what that conference was about. And when you ask about why the race thing amongst the politicians, well, for politicians, it's easy for them to pursue topics that will divide us, right? To pursue topics that will sort of paint or portray our society as when a white man is doing well at the expense of a black person in this day and age, right? So to play those racial divisions, it's a way of saying, look, if you vote for me, what I will do is that I'm going to somehow make sure that we get that wealth of that another person and somehow transfer it to you. And that is very much misleading our people, our young people. And I think even the academic institutions, this demon is them, and we need to push back against it in democracies.
So, Phumlani,
All right.
though, and I know you spoke about Adam Smith, and because I see on your social media is one of the people that you quite hold in esteem, right? And he was, besides just being an economist, he was also a philosopher. And one of the things he very famously said, was that no society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. So it's not, I mean, when you look at it today in South Africa, which is why some of these concepts may take hold, is when you live in a society where half the people in the society are living on less than 20 Rand a day. And then you have a CEO on the other side that is earning 266,000 Rand a day. And the price of milk is 27 Rand. So this is where we are today.
Yes.
And considering that, the earliest, I mean, when he wrote Wealth of Nations, one of the things about it was almost considered heresy at the time, And part of it was really about not just a society that is wealthy, but also a society that is healthy, a society where we have to find a balance between these two things. You cannot just allow rampant capitalism, and where you have unhappy, poor and miserable people, even the people with money are living in a precarious environment, So what does that shift require?
Now, let me ask you, you said, what was the price of the milk? 27 Rand. You said that, right? Okay, so the price is 27 Rand. What has been pushing up over the past year or two? What has been pushing up inflation? What has been pushing up prices? It's been the load shedding issue as a contributor. farmers have been facing a serious issue around the load shedding problems. Who brought the load shedding problems? Isn't it the state? The failure of the state.
Yes.
You look at the Transnet matter, Phumi, the Transnet matter, where we have serious logistical backlogs, right? Where we have all these places where there are goods coming out and coming into South Africa. There are serious delays and supply problems. Who is responsible for Transnet at the moment? Isn't it government, right? My point to you
Government
is that
has always been responsible for Transnet.
my point to you is this: where you see some serious things like inflation skyrocketing and going high, where in fact, even when you look at, by the way, even the price of petrol, even the price of petrol, you'll find out that plus minus about 40% of it's taxes, right? Again, that pushes up the price. My point to you, Phumi, is this: where you see that there is some economic problems, including inflation. My argument to you is that the government has been responsible for that, because we wouldn't have prices going high if load shedding was fixed, right? We wouldn't have prices going high if we didn't have Transnet issues. All these are governmental problems.
So what are you asking for? What are you asking for? Because you started out saying that, government needs to ensure that opportunity that young people are brought into the economy, and now you're saying government is the problem. So what is it that
but hang on. Your question for me was like, unfettered capitalism does evil, but then Phumlani's pointing out that in our context, it isn't capitalism that's to blame.
The evil of price is skyrocketing,
and it's statism above all that's led to these problems.
The question, though,
now,
is where Phumlani starts by saying that government needs to do more. That's where Phumlani started, is that government needs to, and it's not just unfettered capitalism.
No,
all I'm saying is that where we sit in South Africa today, where half the people in this country are living and languishing in poverty and misery.
Yeah, thanks to government as a contributor to poverty is my point.
But where we sit today, so what do you want? Do you want government to do something, or do you want government to do nothing?
Of course I want government to do something. And remember what I said to you earlier. I spoke about that we must be equal before the law and have equal opportunity, right? We cannot equalize wealth or incomes. That's what I'm against, all this redistribution. What's the idea that, well, a CEO earns 7 times another 7 times than Phumlani? That's why it's going to get us to a point where we are failing to address the real issues that contribute to those wealth gaps, right? My point to you is this: the government what it needs to do must focus more on upskilling, right, our people, and driving entrepreneurship. That should be the main focus, and in creating the frameworks of a situation where things like load sheddings, they are fixed. Things like dealing with the issue of the Transnet matters, that is being fixed. So my point to you is that create an environment. I'm not saying government shouldn't do anything. I'm saying that government has been doing things the wrong way, and in many instances failing or destroying some of the elements that will help us to have a productive economy, right? So that is my point. Yeah.
So what I'm asking is, what does the solution look like for you? What are these changes that you are looking for? What are these policy changes that you are looking for?
Oh, that one is a simple one, right? Okay, firstly, you need to deal with the issue of load shedding. That's an obvious one, right? That everybody knows. Now, you don't deal with the issue of load shedding by having, which is what we've done over the past decades, right? From the apartheid era, not only from our democratic era. You can't have one company supplying power. You've got to have more companies supplying electricity or supplying power. You have to deal with the issue of educational skills. In the book, I highlight for me the problems of our education, right? And I cite some reports there that shows that countries like Tanzania, Gareth, countries like poorer countries by GDP per capita, poorer countries by infrastructure, they are doing better than us when it comes to education. So we don't have that competitive education that we need to address. You have to deal with the issues of law and order, right? Just last week, 2 weeks back, the World Bank said, look, South Africa's, the levels of crime are costing South Africa about 10% of its GDP a year. So think about that. Again, that's an issue that government needs to address around the law and order in the country. Get rid of the regulations that make it difficult for people to find employment. I'm not a fan of the national minimum wage. I'm not a fan. I just think it's there for dogmatic reasons, right? It's not there for the purposes of creating a thriving labor market, right? And we have to address the issues of the labor costs that are quite troubling when you look at even by the sub-Saharan, regional comparisons, that our labor costs are quite higher. Now, let me ask you one thing, Phumi. Why do you think companies like Tesla, like Apple, they don't come to create factories in South Africa? They go elsewhere, in East Asia and so on. When we have unemployment rates of plus 65% for young people, they don't come here, right? That's because we've made our market. Even Elon Musk is struggling to operate in this country, right? So those are the things we have to fix. You start with the basic, So I mean, these are the things that I don't want to give away too much, and then people end up not buying the book and said we listen to Phumlani in a way. But that's the point I'm making here. That much of our problems that we have to address, they come from incompetence of our leaders. And that's
okay. So hang on.
Capitalism. Yeah.
I also think that there's this idea that you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Like you need government to get the things that government is responsible for working. Is that more or less what you're saying, Phumlani? As in, like, since we have state-owned enterprises, it's not an ideal situation, but we have them. So we might as well make them work. And if they work, they can help build the infrastructure and supply the resources that we need in the economy. And we're not going to just overnight disband and disestablish them. We have to do these things carefully and slowly. The idea of Chesterton's fences. If you don't know what the fence is for, don't break it down. But there's also this important question of, and I think the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. There's this idea that the more government stays out of private business, the better. Generally, if I have something to trade with Phumi, I don't need a third party in terms of government coming in trying to get their share of it in tax, trying to get their share of it in terms of making laws that affect Phumi and my trade. There's no need for that. It's getting in the way, and it's unnecessary, and it's corporate statism.
I keep losing Gareth.
Are we okay, Ryan?
It's going on and off.
Did you hear any of that now?
Can you hear?
Phumi, did you hear me?
Now? Yeah, I did. I'll tell him about what you said.
Okay,
I can't hear Gareth.
Okay, Ryan's coming to help us out.
Oh, okay. Obviously, it's Phumlani's headphones.
Maybe it's Phumlani's headphones.
I suspect it's my headphones.
But okay, so Gareth is asking about between two people, you're right, that we need less interference when there is trade in place.
Yeah.
And Gareth, I mean, I think we have, you and I have over many episodes of this spoken a lot about this, but I do want to ask you, because the book is called Lessons from Past Heroes, and one of the things, funny, we were talking about this at the office the other day, that these guys that are on the cover of your book got on their horse and carriages and went their first meeting, Mangaung or whatever it is, drove their horse and carriages for days on end to come together and put their minds to the problem and how they believe the problem needs to be solved. And so today, and it's not governments, they were not in government at the time, so
they were not,
for you, the individual lessons for individuals within South Africa is what?
That's a great question, because I was speaking at a conference sometime this year. I think it was around July. And then I ended up, when I was doing my presentation, saying, look, there are great lessons we can get from AfriForum, right? Because these guys, yes, they represent African interests, but they have, built a college, Soltech, their college, through the funding that their members put together. It was ahead of schedule, right? It's use coming into operation, and I think also it was under budget or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that. So there are great lessons here. These are people who have said, look, the government is failing us, Phumi, and we must do something as a society to try and better our communities. And the question is, how can the culture we saw there with what was done by AfriForum? Now, when you mention AfriForum, people get emotional. One guy after the conference came and said to me, "You just mentioned racist people. That's not good for you." I just said, "Look, I mean, we can learn something from. They are South Africans. We can learn something from them." Now that tells that spirit. And you said that these people, they were not representatives or somehow involved in government. These were private individuals who wanted to who are mobilized, right? Come together. Now, my point is that there are even current examples, like I've just given to you now, where communities come together and try to address problems that, in many instances, our state is failing, and that's a positive that people can come together like that. So my point is that it's the initiative has to be taken by us to come together where we can do things together and in our communities to make a difference. This idea that we have to wait for, which is what the whole book is about. It's a counter to this thing of government must be the nanny in South Africa. That government must be the helper, that everything begins with them. We want to be a society where the government must play its role in the sense that it creates the landscape and the frameworks where we as people can pursue our interests and come together as a people to better our communities. And
So what
cases
would
like
you say?
AfriForum are quite a good example.
So what would you say? The median age in South Africa is 27. So what would you say to a 22-year-old in Mutu who today is looking at the South Africa that she lives in? What do you think she can do today, tomorrow, every day for the next month, for instance, that changes her situation? And what is the lesson from these guys who were middle-aged, educated, moneyed?
Now, there's something, Phumi, I highlight in the book. And this is this. Here's a fact that can't be disputed. Even before 1994, there was education that was there, right, for Black people. Yes, it was second class, third class education because of segregationist sort of policies, but there was education. And there were these classes that we talk about today, where you have the richer, where you have the middle people, there was, and also we have the poor. Those classes were there still, even back at the time. My point to you is this. My point to you is that the people I mentioned there, they made use of what was available in front of them to be better than those who chose not to, or those who decided not to, to work harder and pursue education. So the guys who pursued what was available in front of them, they came off better off. That's just the reality. So my point here is that for young people in South Africa, in the book, I propose about 4 or 5 things that they need to think about and focus on. First of all, make sure that you pursue education intensely, right? And now it doesn't matter whether you live in a township, whether it's in a rural. I'm from a rural KZN. There were schools there. We went to schools. Wherever, you have to pursue what is given in front of you. I speak about I'm talking to an individual young person here. You have to ensure that you take personal responsibility on many things, right? Avoid getting involved in things that will sort of make you lose track on your education, right? And that, by the way, also takes, and this will be directed also to the issue of families.
What
right?
do you mean by that? Like getting what into campus activities that are not academic? What do you mean?
No, Gareth. You should look at the teenage pregnancy rates. They are quite troubling in South Africa.
Okay.
So things like that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So we look at the consumption
So what are you saying,
of drugs. Sorry.
So what are you saying, Yegabafan?
No, I'm not speaking to girls. We are repositioning it now.
I asked you to say to a girl. That's what I said to you. What would you say?
No, you said to a young person.
No, I said 22-year-old.
No, she did say a girl. Yeah.
She did say a girl, did you? Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. So that's one of the advice that you talk of, because that's part of personal responsibility, right? So rather focus on things that will improve your your well-being. And I also highlight in the book, I tell my personal story that one of the unfortunate things about my upbringing was that my parents, even though they had values, very good values, traditional values, they were not educated, right? So what I did was that in fact, this was a trend that where kids came from poorer families that were not educated. The high school would be the place where they learn many things, right? Including learning some things that they couldn't get at home, right? They hang around with teachers who are educated. And one of the stories I told there is that when I used my teachers as a way for me to make progress, right? Whenever I was dealing with applications and so on, I would ask my teachers to help me to push for that, because I was driven. I wanted to be something, right? So that's one thing, that use the school, the environment where you can get help and exploit that to make a difference to your life. And most importantly, also try and be a person who understands and wants to hold people to account, right? And by that, I'm not talking about just in communities in terms of whether being led by counselors but also in schools as well. Be able to know as a student as to what is your right and how you can and how when the system is being abused, you are able to speak up, right? I need education as a young person. I cannot have a situation where teachers are shutting down the schools because of unionism and things like that. So those are basic things that for a person, it begins with such basic things, to be a responsible person who's not distracted by the things that will destroy their education. More importantly, for a young person, focus on improving yourself and look for, take some. I mentioned how I got my first job, right? My first job when I was in high school was around, I was doing some garden, right? I was a garden boy, if you can call me that. But I worked and earned income, right? And I remember I mentioned this in the book, the first time I negotiated my salary, right? And that will tell you, Gareth, the powers of the free market that I advocate for, right there on the spot, with that example. So, but I mean, you've got to find something to do to keep you busy as a young person. Now, that's a message to a young person I would give, because at the end of the day, much of the politics, the policy things, they're not controlled by young people. All a young person can do largely is to concentrate and exploit the opportunities that are around them in order to succeed. And it's not only a girl issue, even boys as well. That's how they should be thinking about, when it comes to improving their lives.
All right, Pums.
Yeah,
I know that you asked that question for a good reason. I know that you're thinking, like, what is the advice we can actually give people on the ground? But a lot of this stuff is up for grabs in this election, right? So we've got an election next year. You've written this book about lessons we can learn from the past heroes. What are the qualities of leadership? Because this is often a conversation that we have on this show. It's a conversation that happens with friends of mine. We're like, well, the leaders, there's such a huge problem with quality of leadership in the world. There aren't people stepping up, standing up for things, saying what they think, rallying people to a good cause. What do you think the leaders of the past had, or we imagine they had, that the leaders of the present do not?
That's a very interesting question. Very interesting question. Then, when we look at today's leadership, and this is what frustrates me a lot. I have noticed that there are many. Okay, it's a democracy. Look, it's fine. It's a democracy, but there are many new parties emerging. Every now and then, there's now a new party. Every now and then, there's now a new party coming through.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're a leader, but what are they meant to have that the guys in the past had?
And they want to be presidents. And the guys in the past, they were more driven by addressing the issues of the time that they faced. Right. And those guys, they had perseverance, they had a vision, and most importantly, they had greater interests or they were driven more by people's interest at the time, the interest of the people who were marginalized. And then today, where we see leaders wanting to be leaders, largely because, at least it seems to me, they just want to be presidents. Everyone thinks, no one wants to. I have argued in some instances, Gareth, that there are people who could come together and as there are different political parties, they can come together, choose one person, and then they lead and try to counter the ANC. But they don't want to do that. They want to be different.
On one hand, you are
Yeah.
a big proponent of the free market that says everybody should be allowed to start their own business because it increases competition. But on the other hand, you are saying the politicians or the individuals who feel that what they are looking for is not being offered by what is out there, and therefore they are starting their own thing, and they are proposing those values, and they are proposing those ideas. It's counterintuitive to say in politics there should be 1, 2, 3 parties, but in business there should be 20 options for people. I think that we do need as many individuals putting out ideas out there for how this country should be, can be, and creating opportunity to have a very robust debate, firstly, but also a very heated contestation for the voter, because that's how you get more people to come out. That's how you get more people to come out. Let them contest their ideas.
Phumi, let's not be theoretical at the moment.
It's not theoretical.
We have an election coming up next year.
Yes. Yeah.
We know what the problem is in South Africa, at least from my perspective, and that we have had a government led by the ANC that has failed its people. Right now, do you seriously believe? Now you are saying that, well, I'm arguing that in business there should be multiple options, but in politics there should, of course, I can argue that was a political setting. If you want to achieve a stable South Africa where politicians are held to account, I can argue for that. I can encourage, I'm not forcing people, I can encourage that let's rather come together, have one force that counters the ANC. Do you seriously believe that having all these everyone coming to be a president is going to defeat the ANC next year? It's not going to do
That's
that.
not what they're saying.
And the goal must be, but I'm telling you what the goal must be, right? The goal must be, how do we, especially I'm talking about the political side now, the goal must be, how do we remove the ANC out of power? How do we defeat the ANC next year? And that is why there is this multi-party coalition arrangement that has been taken place.
Phumlani, do you think this multi-party coalition is a good vehicle for achieving the goal of getting the ANC out, or do you think that it's going to fail like COPE? Like you could argue that Herman Mashaba in Johannesburg was a failure. You can argue that Mgwazam Sibi in northern KwaZulu-Natal was a failure. And these are all the rats and mice people. Phumi's saying, no, there must be a contestation of ideas, which is never a bad thing. I mean, I think we all agree that's good. But you're saying practically, am I right? Practically, we already know what the options are.
Look, Gareth, we need the ANC government to be out of power next year. So your question, what do I think about the multi-party? I think it's a good initiative. It supports my point, the argument I'm making, that rather consolidate and try to fight for the defeat of the ANC. If your values they can't be 100% aligned, but they are largely aligned, or to an extent they are aligned, which is what we are seeing with the multi-party coalition. So it's a good initiative that they are coming together with an aim to remove the ANC out of power at this point. Because Gareth, all these different smaller parties, as you say, they're going to collapse, not going to help. Everyone wants to be president. It's not helpful. Rather come together, campaign, and offer something. Say the goal must be to, just as the goal was to remove the apartheid system by the black people of the time, these black leaders I talk about. The main goal now from the multi-party coalition must be to remove the ANC.
You know, and this is where the contestation of ideas is about, right? Today, when we look back, we think that the goal was to remove an apartheid system, but actually it was about having a political autonomy. What that meant was that you have to remove apartheid. But the idea was that every man should be free to have their own political destiny.
Which is one idea that we're fighting for.
That is the idea. But and differently to what you are saying, the idea of saying the idea to remove the ANC, that is not an idea. That is a consequence. The idea perhaps is an idea that says our constitution promises to free the potential of everyone. And what that requires is it requires a market that will allow everybody to operate. The consequence is remove the ANC. The idea is change the way that business is done. Now you have got people saying, oh, okay, these people are talking about what is important to me. These people are talking about opportunity for me to work as a young person. These people are talking about an opportunity to build my business as a business person. Now you want to go to the poll. But when you are just saying remove the ANC, what people are asking is they are asking, and then what? What will you do differently
what
from
do you
the
mean,
ANC?
and then what?
If
Of
you are
course.
not having a conversation that says,
Yeah.
this is what I will do differently,
Yeah,
then
yes,
people don't show up to vote.
but
And
I
this
mean,
is not theoretical. This is what we see. More people don't show up to vote because they're going, and then what?
Okay. Let's. So why are you railing against that, Phumlani? What's the
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
with what Phumi saying?
No. Phumi, she's asking the question, and then what if we defeat the ANC? And then the new people coming to take power. Those people can be in the form of a coalition. That would be fine. But we need a situation where the ANC is out of power. What comes up after that is some governance where the ANC is not governing. That's what I'm saying. And we need to get practical here, guys. Let's not really get to what we want to achieve right now, which is what I say in the book. We have an election next year, and we've seen what the problem is in the country, and that is the ANC's governance, and the goal must be to defeat the ANC. And I'm saying my recommendation is that I do support the multi-party sort of coalition that has been put in place, because it's people who largely sort of have the same values. They're not exactly the same. Of course, they do disagree on many things, but they largely have. And for them to come together and to say we want to combine and defeat the ANC. But do you seriously think that Freedom Front Plus can defeat the ANC or any smaller parties, even Action SA? Guys, it's not going to happen. Let's be realistic and stop your rising. We want change next year, and the change can only come if guys like the multi-party coalition stand together for the benefit of South Africa.
So Phumlani, you want to be practical. Let's get practical.
Let's get real. Yeah.
And let's cut to the chase here. We've got like 6 minutes left of the show. You've just written this book. We talked about leadership, and there's some interesting questions here. I mean, this is just to comment on this. Leanne says, morals, values, and integrity is what is lacking when it comes to leadership.
And Leanne is right. So that's a good point. Yeah.
So leaders need to say what they think and do what they say. Who would you vote for in the upcoming elections? Because in this country we obfuscate, and white people are too embarrassed to say that they'll vote for the DA because everybody goes, oh well, I think that because it's a white person they're going to vote for the DA. Black people are always accused, well, secretly they love the ANC. They just pretend, especially if they're clever blacks, the ones who talk on radio stations and that kind of thing. Well, they say they hate the ANC, but people suspect that they vote for them anyway. And then people like Phumi, who are trying to understand what everybody else wants to do, is accused of being DA one day, EFF the next day, ANC the next day. We've got to say what we really think. Who would you vote for? Who's the best option on the menu at the moment?
Because you know who's not on the ballot. On the ballot. A multi-party coalition.
Correct. So who would you vote for?
Oh, you are putting me in a very difficult spot here. But what I don't want to give the actual name of who I would vote for. But I argue in the book that, and there's one section where I counter the narrative that we don't have an alternative to the ANC, and I think that's very much misleading. We do have many parties in the country that we could vote for. DA has experience in governance. IFP has also governed before. Look, you have to give other people a chance to govern the country. I would definitely not vote for the far leftist EFF because of its ideas that are very much counter to the values I stand for. So definitely to know them. But I will definitely look into within this multi-party coalition because I think it's a good initiative and it has my support. I'm not ashamed of saying that.
Okay, so as Phumi says that you can't vote for the multi-party coalition, but you're saying you're going to vote for one of the parties in that coalition.
That's my point. Indirectly, that's what I'm saying. I will vote for one of those parties because their values, they are sort
You
of
see,
largely to an extent aligned to mine.
So Stink Mina here in the comments is saying, and I hate when people just jump to these conclusions, like everyone is being paid by political parties. The political parties have no money, for starters. They really don't. They don't have the kind of money that American political parties have, where they can deploy hundreds of ambassadors into civil society. We all know Phumlani is a DA stogie, says Stink Mina. I mean, that's not true, is it?
What?
That you're some kind of agent for the DA.
No, that's nonsense. It's just that I have said that the DA governs better than the ANC, which is what the data shows.
Well, that's
and
not
I've said
controversial.
That we do have
that's
an alternative.
True.
Yeah, that's true. We do have alternatives.
I'm sitting here in a province. I'm sitting here in a province, and I visit here a couple of times a year, and I can see there is growth and development, and there's good administration here. The roads are fixed. Things are happening. That's purely a question. It's not about politics or emotion. That's purely about like service delivery.
It's governance.
That's all.
Proper governance. Oh, well, I wouldn't call it proper, but it's better governance, which is what
So let me ask this quickly, because Kaza says, I've only ever voted ANC, but not this time. This is a refrain we hear from many people. What do you comment to that?
Is he saying that he's only voted for the ANC and this
Before, and this time not voting for the ANC?
Okay. No, that's a positive, but I would advise that don't vote for the EFF, which is what I've been saying for a long time, because the country would be more destroyed, far worse than how the ANC has mismanaged it. That has been my argument, because of their leftist sort of pro-Chave, ideology and ideas.
Do you think that that's how many people are feeling, that they're not going to vote ANC, so they'll vote EFF?
Of course, there are many people who think that. Why would you think that the EFF has doubled its support since its founding? Was it around 2014 where they founded or so? That's because we have had people who have, it's happening. But my point is that look, Gareth, these are my opinions and my advices, right? And I'm not forcing anyone to be. It's just what I think should be how we should handle the situation. I'm saying, look, don't vote for EFF.
I'm not trying to put you in an awkward position. I mean, I've got to thank you, because so many times on social media, and you are brave, my friend, you are brave. If nothing else, one of the qualities of leadership, and some of those people that you write about in your book, is courage. And there are so few people in politics and in conversation on social media who actually have the courage of their convictions, as you do. It's one of the reasons I like having you on the show, where you say what you really think. And here, Kaza's saying, by the way, voted for the ANC a couple of times, voting DA this time. So I appreciate, again, people who say what they think and do what they say. I love this.
Yeah.
I think the courage of conviction is what we see with all the various people who are putting their hand up to say, I currently do not feel that there is somebody in the landscape that is offering me what I need in this country going forward, and I'm going to mobilize people around the ideas that I have, and we are going to contest. I think that if you look back, because we are talking about lessons from past heroes and the past, if you look back to 1988 and think about what South Africa was then, and how hard it was and how dark it was for many people, and the fact that there were also equally as many people who were saying there is no way in hell that the NP government would be defeated and that apartheid would end in 1988.
Yes.
And yet, in 1994, we had queues and queues and queues of South Africans. One man, one vote.
Right.
And all I'm saying is the contestation of ideas, the bravery of individuals, and the mobilizing and coalescing around ideas that change not just the fortunes of the people selling those ideas, but people who buy into those ideas looks like a change for our country. And I'm simply saying that the many people who are putting up their hands, whether it is a RISE, a Patriotic Alliance, and EFF, they are contesting ideas. And if they can get people to coalesce around those ideas, then they can change the government. The consequence will be an ANC that is not in power. But if you are if you are selling a get the ANC out, you are not going to get people to follow. That's why you have people in this comment section saying, I don't know who to vote for. Even as you have a multi-party coalition where 5 people are saying, if you vote for my party, and between the 5 of us, after you have voted for us, we're going to fight for this one seat. That's what they're telling you. And that's what people are saying. I'm not sure if that's what I want to buy into. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to have to draw this to a close. There are lots of interesting comments here too. But Phumlani, you're always welcome on the show. I wish you the best of luck with your book. Phums, hold it up again so that people can see what the book looks like. This is a good one for Christmas because I love history. So Lessons from Past Heroes by Phumlani Majozi, our guest this morning. Take a look at that and put it in the stockings this Christmas so that you can make this capitalist rich. At least try to get him to recoup the costs. Making books is not cheap, and it's not as lucrative a business as people seem to think it is. All right, Phumlani, thank you so much. I almost said Phumi Majozi. Phumi Mashiho, Phumlani Majozi, and Gareth Cliff, we're out for this morning. Thank you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. for a Friday special from Cape Town. Have an excellent day. Cheers, everyone.